A completely spineless, feckless prince buys his swimsuits at Target.
It's helpful to be able to tuck.
And Snow White is Snow Brown. Now, I don't have a problem with the fact that she's brown. I'm just saying everything about this has to be changed when it doesn't really need to be changed.
And there was no tension. There was no drama. There was like nothing in that set. All it was an empty movie.
Babe, Rachel Zegler is spiraling, and the internet is just sitting there eating popcorn.
A company like Disney so up against it. Why? Because it doubled down on DEI.
It's like watching a fairy tale unravel in 4K. Because South Park didn't just roast her Snow White performance, they torched it, turned it into a 5-alarm cultural wildfire, and then handed her the ashes. And the worst part? They made it funny.
Woke? We're talking about ultra-far leftists, people who believe that men and women are a figment of your imagination, that your money is not your own, that your family is not your own, and that your country is not your own. That's what woke means.
The episode was everything you'd expect from South Park when they smell a Hollywood disaster. Savage, unapologetic, and way too accurate to be dismissed. They rebranded her as Woke White, a princess who hosts a podcast about slaying toxic masculinity and forces woodland animals to attend her gender-neutral leadership workshops. Her dwarfs replaced with unpaid inclusivity interns. Her castle covered in quotes like "love is colonialism." And babe, the accuracy, painful.
And I think Snow White has become the pinnacle of this. This is going to go down in history as an asterisk next to Rachel Zegler's name. Rachel Zegler.
These weren't just cheap shots. They were frame-by-frame parodies of her real press interviews, TikToks, and every viral moment from the Snow White promotional tour that should have been empowering but instead turned into one long meme. South Park didn't come to play, they came to bury, and they did it with animation.
I don't really care about that. What I care about is how she hated the story because it needed to be wokeified, and she hated the fact that there was going to be a Prince Charming of some sort, and they needed to update it.
The second the episode dropped, the timeline went full meltdown mode. Within hours, Woke White was trending globally, and clips from the episode were everywhere. TikTok edits, Twitter threads, Instagram reels with captions like, "This is what happens when PR teams stop saying no." The responses? Absolutely unhinged. One viral tweet said, "South Park just did what Disney refused to. Admit the remake's a mess." Another said, "They didn't roast Rachel. They held up a mirror and hit print." And it only spiraled from there.
And then what do you know? They try all this updating. They get this lousy screenwriter, in my estimation, because I saw this thing and it was awful. Like really, really, really bad.
Users started remixing the parody audio into videos of Rachel's real-life red carpet interviews and the side-by-sides. Girl, too perfect. It didn't even feel like parody anymore. It felt like prophecy. Fans who once gave her grace started pulling receipts. One even stitched a TikTok saying, "It's not misogyny if you're being dragged for your own words. Sis, it wasn't cancel culture. It was clown culture, and Rachel had just become the main act."
When people say woke, what they really mean is they're describing a worldview that hates you, that hates everything America stands for.
Now let's talk about the reaction. Because girl, it was everything the internet loves to feast on. Rachel didn't ignore it. She didn't laugh it off. She didn't even log off. She leaned in the worst possible way. First, the cryptic black screen Instagram story, "Mocking women isn't satire. It's cowardice." Then came the tweet, "It's always the loudest critics who've never made anything meaningful in their lives." Babe read the room. The internet is not your diary. And then she went live, teary-eyed, voice shaking, talking about how South Park has a history of punching down and how the sketch misrepresented everything she stood for. She said people were mocking activism and turning progress into punchlines. But babe, when you are the punchline, that message doesn't land. It sounds like deflection. And the comments? They let her know. People weren't even mean. They were disappointed. One viewer commented, "Girl, we wanted to root for you. But now you're giving I'm the victim of my own PR tour." Another, "You can't speak truth to power and then cry when someone claps back with better writing."
So Disney is another company that's been in hot water. They've been in a downward spiral.
While Rachel was out here unraveling in real time, you know who said nothing? Disney. No statement, no defense, no "we support our star." It was giving silent retreat energy. Executives were probably watching from their PR war rooms with their heads in their hands. Why? Because this parody didn't just dunk on Rachel, it dismantled the entire Snow White reboot campaign. It proved everything fans had been saying. The tone was off, the vibe was forced, and the lead actress had alienated the core audience. The parody just packaged it into something that was too viral to unsee. And the scariest part for Disney? The internet agreed. You can't control a narrative once South Park turns it into a joke. The memes are faster than the marketing. The joke hit harder than the trailers. And now, that $300 million reboot looks like a parody of itself.
The primary suffering is being sent in by my company to watch a children's movie as a single man, like 2 p.m. on a Thursday. That was the first part that was a little bit weird, but I was basically the only person in the theater.
You already know, babe, once something hits TikTok, it's locked into the culture. And South Park's woke white sketch, it's already trending with multiple audios being used for meme edits, skits, and POVs. And none of them are flattering. One clip, the fake Snow White screaming, "My trauma is not for your consumption," while slamming a glitter-covered scroll onto a table, is already being used in edits about girl boss influencers, fake deep podcast hosts, and that one girl in every drama class. It's been memed into every corner of the app, and people aren't just laughing, they're reposting it like it's gospel. Another audio, every time I see a man, I lose a little magic. That one, reactions only. People just staring at the camera with captions like, "Me when I hear Rachel's Snow White is still happening." Babe, the accuracy, the speed, the humiliation. South Park didn't just drag her. They handed the internet the tools to keep dragging her for months. And the worst part? The actual movie hasn't even dropped yet. By the time it does, no one's going to be able to take it seriously.
The most insufferable girl boss narcissist that exists on Earth, who hates Snow White.
Now, this is where things get extra spicy. According to multiple unconfirmed but suspiciously detailed reports, Disney allegedly held a quiet emergency meeting after the South Park parody went viral. Sources say the studio is concerned about tone perception and is reviewing the film's final messaging. Translation, they know the reboot is about to get laughed out of theaters if they don't do something fast. Apparently, Disney's internal fear is that the movie is going to hit streaming with more meme value than market value. Think about it. The parody has now officially overtaken the film's own trailer in views, shares, and cultural impact. Executives are reportedly debating how much they can salvage in post-production, and whether Rachel should even do more press. Girl, not them trying to PR ghost their own lead actress. Because let's be real, when your star's crying on Instagram and your fairy tale is trending for the wrong reasons, the brand is no longer Disney princess. It's damage control.
And so I've got some bona fides here on being fair. The movie was absolutely terrible.
This one hurts, babe, because it's not just trolls, fans, and TikTokers. Even Hollywood is starting to quietly distance itself from Rachel, casting rumors that once had her linked to musicals, rom-coms, even superhero roles. Suddenly, nothing. That industry silence is screaming. Insiders are allegedly saying some producers are nervous about the public perception and unsure if she's media safe. Yikes. Translation, they don't want the backlash baggage. And can you blame them? Rachel's not just getting dragged, she's turning every criticism into a monologue about injustice, and it's exhausting. At this point, the industry sees her as a PR liability. And when your name trends for all the wrong reasons before, your big studio release even drops, that's not buzz. That's the sound of Hollywood saying next.
When people say woke, what they really mean is they're describing a worldview that hates you, that hates everything America stands for.
Let's make something clear, babe. South Park didn't cancel Rachel Zegler. Rachel Zegler canceled Rachel Zegler. South Park just animated what she already gave them. They didn't twist her words. They didn't invent drama. They simply did what they always do, take a cultural moment and say the quiet part out loud. But this time, the quiet part was a whole PR disaster that had already been playing out in real time. And that's why this hit so hard, because no one could defend her. She wasn't being misrepresented, she was being mirrored. Exaggerated, sure, but based in everything she really said. And when a parody just uses your real personality and still gets laughs, babe, that's not a roast. That's a career warning shot.
Yeah, look, I don't really like the term woke. That said, our primary purpose is to entertain. And where we can entertain responsibly, obviously, we try to do that. We try to have a positive impact on the world.
And here's the final kicker. As much as Rachel is spiraling and Disney is scrambling, the public already moved on, the memes are still flying, the parody is still iconic. But Rachel's meltdown? Already getting old. That's the curse of viral. Humiliation, the moment ends, but the joke sticks. People won't remember the date the movie dropped. They'll remember woke white. They'll remember the meltdown. They'll remember the TikToks. The episode will live longer than the film ever could. And Rachel, she'll be stuck trying to promote a fairy tale while the world sees her as the punchline.
I also like how Disney doesn't have any new ideas. So
Right.
what have we done before that's worked? Let's do that again.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start with the obvious. Can Rachel come back from this? The short answer? Maybe. The real answer? It depends on what she does next. And so far, she's not doing great. Let's face it, babe. We've seen celebs bounce back from worse. Anne Hathaway had her awkward girl boss phase and came out thriving. Taylor Swift got memed into the snake era and flipped it into the Reputation tour. But those comebacks, they required self-awareness, a little humility, a little, yeah, I see what y'all are saying, let me play with it. Rachel, on the other hand, she's doing the exact opposite. She's crying. She's posting, she's doubling down, she's making every moment about being misunderstood, about being targeted for her beliefs. But babe, this isn't politics. This is PR. You can't get dragged for months and then act shocked when people stop rooting for you. If she wants to come back, she's going to have to own it, fully, publicly, and strategically. Otherwise, this moment isn't going away. It's going to define her.
It just takes a beloved movie and makes it much more boring and much less realistic. The movie is really, really bad.
It's honestly wild when you think about it. Just a year ago, Rachel Zegler was the next big thing. A Spielberg lead, a new Disney princess, studio darling energy. She was on all the lists, all the short lists, all the hype blogs. And now, she's a meme. A TikTok sound, a cautionary tale in how not to run a press tour. It's one of the fastest PR collapses we've seen in a minute, and it didn't happen because she's untalented. It happened because she got too smug, too preachy, and too comfortable dragging something people actually loved. You can reimagine a fairy tale, babe, but don't act like you're above it. People didn't hate her because she's opinionated. They hated the tone, the way she smirked through interviews, the way she made it seem like we were dumb for loving the original Snow White. That smugness, that's what South Park captured. That's what made the parody stick. And that's why her name now gets more eye rolls than applause.
Very few people wanted to see this. Even the little kids who like Disney movies, even they don't seem to be turning up in droves for the movie because the movie is really, really bad.
Let's get into the culture. Because this isn't just about Rachel. It's about the system she got eaten alive by. The internet doesn't just roast you and move on. It brands you. You don't just get dragged. You become a symbol. And babe, Rachel's now a symbol of everything the audience hates about modern Hollywood, preachy press tours, anti-fun reboots, celebs who say one thing and cry when they get called out. She's the poster child for main character collapse. And unless something dramatic changes, that's what she's going to be remembered for. Because the thing about the internet, it doesn't forget. It turns jokes into legacy. And unless Rachel somehow pulls off a major reset, people won't even remember what she acted in. They'll just remember woke white.
Disney decided to hire.
This is where it gets really real. Because what South Park did wasn't just a meme, it was cultural preservation. They animated her downfall and locked it into the timeline. People will reference that sketch 5 years from now. When someone gives off the same vibe Rachel did, they'll say, she's giving woke white. That's what happens when a parody hits too hard. They turned her into a shorthand, a cultural punchline, not because she failed, but because she refused to pivot. She could have course corrected. She could have said, yeah, maybe I came off wrong. Here's what I really meant. But she didn't. She leaned in. She turned up the smug, and the public turned her into a cartoon. Literally. That's not just a drag. It's career damage you can't erase.
Have proven to be Disney's worst investment ever in the history of Disney investments. I mean, they've gone through various scandals with this girl.
Okay, now let's be fair. Is there still time for a comeback? Technically, yes. But it's going to take more than a couple of tweets and a red carpet smile. It's going to take an actual strategy, real humility, smart rebranding, and most importantly, silence. She needs to stop posting, stop reacting, and start listening. She has to let the storm pass, let the meme cycle burn itself out, and then re-emerge on her terms. Quieter, wiser, and with a project that doesn't scream activism first, fun second. that's the only way she gets another shot, because right now, she's not acting like a misunderstood artist. She's acting like a celebrity who can't take a joke. And South Park didn't tell a lie, they just animated the truth.
I don't really care about that. What I care about is how she hated the story because it needed to be wokeified, and she hated the fact that there was going to be a Prince Charming of some sort, and they needed to update it.
Babe, let's not sugarcoat it. Hollywood has already moved on, and no one's sending flowers. The industry doesn't care how talented you are if you become a PR problem. And right now, Rachel's giving liability energy. She's trending for all the wrong reasons. And in an industry that lives on image, casting directors are already asking the question, do we really want to risk a press tour with her name on the poster? Word behind the scenes is that some deals have already gone cold. Studios are quietly backing away. Projects that once had her name floating around are suddenly exploring other talent. And babe, they're not going to say it publicly, but we all know what this means. No one wants to be the next studio that gets caught in the blast. Radius of a viral drag. Rachel went from next-gen starlet to punchline risk overnight. And Hollywood is savage. Once you've been publicly clowned by South Park, TikTok, and the comment section of your own live stream, it's a wrap until further notice.
The primary suffering is being sent in by my company to watch a children's movie as a single man, like 2 p.m. on a Thursday. That was the first part that was a little bit weird, but I was basically the only person in the theater.
Let's be real. The Snow White reboot wasn't just supposed to be a movie, it was supposed to be a moment. Disney was ready to launch a new era with Rachel as the bold, modern, empowering face of their next-gen princess lineup. But now, that fairy tale is officially over, not because the movie isn't done, not because the effects aren't there, but because the audience doesn't believe in it anymore. The second a character becomes a joke before they hit the screen, the story's already lost. And the South Park parody didn't just hurt the brand, it turned the entire reboot into a satire of itself. Even if the movie releases, even if the visuals are gorgeous, the message is clear, the cultural moment already passed. And Rachel, Zegler, she's no longer being seen as a modern princess. She's being seen as a warning.
And then what do you know? They try all this updating. They get this lousy screenwriter, in my estimation, because I saw this thing and it was awful. Like really, really, really bad.
So what now? If Rachel wants any shot at reviving her career, babe, it starts with one word: silence. No more posts, no more tears on TikTok, no more vague quotes about misogyny disguised as comedy. She needs to go dark. Let the memes die down. Let the internet get bored. Let people miss her instead of meme her. Then, and only then, she can plot a comeback. One that isn't built on correcting the past, but actually rebuilding her image. A new role, totally different tone, maybe even a self-deprecating moment to show she gets it now. But if she keeps clapping back, if she keeps dragging it out, this parody won't just haunt her, it will become her permanent introduction.
When people say woke, what they really mean is they're describing a worldview that hates you, that hates everything America stands for.
Rachel Zegler's fall from grace isn't just a PR disaster, it's a cautionary tale, a reminder that talent alone doesn't protect you from the internet, that if you treat your audience like they're beneath you, they'll gladly return the favor, and that when a cartoon calls you out and the world laughs, sometimes you just have to eat it. Because at the end of the day, she didn't get roasted for being bad. She got roasted for being insufferably smug about it. She had the crown, she had the role, she had the audience, but then she opened her mouth, went viral for all the wrong reasons. And South Park animated the moment the princess turned into the meme.
Disney is another company that's been in hot water. They've been in a downward spiral.
So what do you think, babe? Was South Park out of pocket, or did they just say what everyone else was thinking? Is Rachel Zegler a victim of toxic internet culture, or just another celeb who couldn't take the heat she helped light? And is there still hope for her redemption arc, or did she just write her own tragic ending? Sound off in the comments. Spill your takes. And if you're obsessed with watching Hollywood chaos unfold in real time, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell so you don't miss a single meltdown. Because in this town, you don't need a witch or a poisoned apple. Just one wrong quote, and your fairy tale ends all by itself.